Well, hello, good evening, good night, good morning. I am very excited to have today's conversation with you because this is a conversation that can intersect with all aspects of your financial life, and I'm going to say probably most aspects of the rest of your life, of other areas of your life that are even outside of finances, because the subject we're going to discuss today has a huge effect on how you make decisions, but you may not realize that it has this effect. In fact, you probably don't. People don't normally think about it this way. You probably have no idea the incredible influence that this subject has. So, first of all, the title of today's discussion is The Powerful Connection Between Emotional Regulation and Investing Success. Yeah. You would think they're not related, right? You would think what decides investing success, right? Knowledge, research, background, maybe each person's background, having a sense of the market, probably. I'm just thinking this is what people might say. And look, of course, investing. If you're going to invest money, yeah, you want to do your research. You don't want to invest and not know what you're investing in or not know what you're talking about, or right? So I'm not saying that everything else is irrelevant. I'm just saying let's really dive into the incredible power of emotional regulation and lack of emotional regulation on our own financial decisions, our investing decisions, but like I said, also other financial decisions like how we spend our money just in general. Right, so we're gonna talk about this. I'm gonna focus mostly on investing, but we're gonna cover some other areas too. And I gotta say, if you want to materially improve your financial situation over the medium and long term, this subject is really important, and it is so misunderstood and not understood. So I know that's a very long preamble here, but it's so important to take this seriously. And again, we just probably have no idea how seriously we really need to take it. So in the process of doing that, I will tell you this, guys. I'm going to tell you some personal stories about myself that I've never shared publicly before, and that I don't normally share this kind of information about myself publicly. But it's actually quite important for this subject and for you being able to apply it to your own life. Listen, the reason I'm talking about this with you isn't just because to give you some informational background of like, oh, there's a connection between emotional regulation and investing success. It's because there's concrete things you can actually do about it right now that can influence what your whole financial trajectory is. Now, like I said, what I'm about to describe doesn't take the place of knowledge. One of the things I am not going to do today is tell you where to invest your money and where not to. That's not in my wheelhouse. I'm not here to tell you to be your investing expert and say you should invest in this commodity but not this stock, and that's your job, right? To do the research, get some help with that if you want. But it doesn't. Here's the point. If you do the research perfectly and you get all the great information and you get some good help, you're going to piss your money away anyway if you don't have this piece. Right? This piece is necessary for gaining wealth and for keeping wealth too. Which are two different skills, actually. It's very important to understand that getting the money and keeping the money are not the same skill. They come from different. But emotional regulation is tied to both of them. So let's talk about this. So what's the most basic idea about investing in anything? Well, it's to buy low and sell high, right? I mean, that's not PhD level stuff there, right? If you want to make money from any kind of investment or from anything that you spend money on to sell later to get more money, it doesn't have to be a stock. It could be an antique car. It could be a piece of art, right? The whole point is buy low, sell high, right? So again, I'm not teaching any. I hope that's not new information for you. Okay? So yes, that's important. Buy low, sell high. Now, here's the problem. Most casual investors, most investors, period, a lot of investors, they buy low, they buy high and sell low, right? Which is a really great way to get rid of your money. If you want to not have money, if you want to start with a bunch of money you're going to invest and then not have any of that later, buying high and selling low is a great way to do it. It's not a great way to do it if you're trying to invest so that you have more money later than you have right now. Now, you might say, but dude, that doesn't make any sense. Why would anyone, let alone most people, buy high and sell low? That doesn't even make any sense. Are they just totally ignorant? Like, what's going on? No. It's because of a lack of emotional regulation. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit. I told you I'm going to tell you some stories about myself that I don't normally reveal. And again, there are certain personal things I like to, generally speaking, keep private to myself. But this is just, it's so apropos to this subject. I feel like I have to share these stories to you if I want to really give you the information you would need on this subject. So, first thing that I will tell you is that I have made a number of different investments in my life, right? I invested in a house. I've invested in stocks. I invested in a brand new startup company at one point. I invested in Apple when it was a really different company. And I've invested in cryptocurrencies. They all turned out really differently from one another. So I want to tell you a little bit about it. First of all, I'm going to start with the thing that has gone the best. But I'm telling you it again, I'm telling you with a very particular thing in mind. I'm going to tell you right now about my experience investing in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. But I'm not going to tell you about it because I think you should invest in cryptocurrencies. I want to be really clear about that. You need to make your own. There's reasons to invest in crypto. There's reasons not to invest in crypto. It's not for everybody. I'm not trying to tell everybody to invest in it. I'm telling you, I am only simply speaking first person here. I did that. And let's just say so far it's paid off handsomely. But I want to, the reason I'm telling you this is because I did something. Listen, the decision to choose crypto, to put my money in, I'm not going to sit here and brag about it. I don't think it's because I was really smart and I knew better than everybody else and anything like that. I had a really good friend who invested. I'll just give you a name. He invested in Bitcoin when Bitcoin was worth about $300 per coin. I don't know if you follow this stuff, but that's kind of unbelievable. He bought a bunch of them when they were worth $300 a coin. And he bought a few more when they were worth like $1,000 a coin. Doesn't even matter because you know what they're worth right now, right? They're worth well over $100,000 per coin. He invested $300 per coin, okay? So I didn't do that. I did not do that. Now, I invested at $10,000 per coin. I invested in other cryptocurrencies as well. And I'm not going to get into all the details of what I did. I want to use Bitcoin as an example because it's just going to be simple to understand because I bought it at $10,000 per Bitcoin. It is now worth over $100,000. So I did much worse than my friend did. And so far, if I were to sell today, I would have more than 10x'd the money that I put into it. Not only that, but I didn't do it with a little bit of like an extra few $1,000s that I had. I actually did it at the height of COVID after everything had crashed because now when COVID hit, this is another piece of financial information you probably don't know about me. When COVID hit, I took an immediate 80% cut in what I was making per year from normal income. Why? Why did that happen? Because I was getting income from traveling and doing lectures all over the world and working with people all over the world and doing all this. And that came to, it's nobody's fault, just came to an immediate stop overnight. And so most of the only income I had left was some stuff that I was doing at the time over the phone. I do much more now over Zoom and over the phone, but at the time I was doing a lot less of that. So I was making less than 20% of what I was making in 2019 when it was partway through 2020. And by the way, that didn't change. Like in that year. Like I actually made less than 20% of my normal income in 2020, and I made a little bit more than that in 21. Maybe I made 30% of my normal income. It took me a long while to dig out of that hole. Right? In fact, I've barely dug out of the hole now, like back to what I was making in 2019. In fact, actually, no, I'm still just a hair under what I was making in 2019. So I still haven't totally reached that yet. It's been a long dig out of that hole, right? But guess what else I did? I took, I know this is going to sound crazy. I'm not recommending anybody do this. I'm going somewhere with this story. I took all my savings at the worst possible time in the economy when I was making very, very little money, and I put it into Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies. And I put them there when Bitcoin was at 10,000, and a lot of the other coins I invested in were worth much, much less than that. Right? Now, I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm not telling you that because look what a smart move I made. That's not the point of emotional regulation. Doesn't make you know when to invest in something, what to invest in. Right? But that's actually, unless you're a day trader, and I'm not speaking to day traders here, unless you're a day trader, that's not how you make money by and large in investments, is like knowing, timing the sell and the buy exactly right. I'm going to buy on this Tuesday, I'm going to sell on that Thursday. That's not how 99% of everybody makes money through investing, right? You make money by actually hanging on to it for a while. In fact, they've done a lot of studies on this. By and large, the less you do, the more you just buy something and hold on to it for long enough, that's your best shot of making money from that investment, right? So here's where I'm going to bring into what I teach and what I teach to you guys all the time and why I think this is so important. Crypto is a very volatile group of assets. Bitcoin is volatile too. Bitcoin is the least volatile, but it's still crazy volatile, right? And it was even crazier volatile back in 2020 when I got in. So it went up for a while after I bought it, but it also had some very intense crashes, and not only crashes that lasted for a day or two, which happened, but also crashes that lasted for a few years, right? Except for the friend that I told you about who invested when they were at 300. I have other friends who invested in crypto at a similar time to me, okay, in 2020. Every single one of them sold when it crashed, right? So I just need you to understand this because this is coming to the bigger point. Every single one of them, I did not, by the way, but every single one of them sold during crashes. So they sold during low points, right? Now why am I telling you this? And what does this have to do with emotional regulation? Well, people think, some hotshot investors and certain day traders, I don't even know if this is really true for them, but what some of them claim is that they have like nerves of steel and they don't feel any emotion about any of their investments, and that's why they're able to be successful. That might be true. I'm a little skeptical, but maybe I can't read their minds, maybe. But again, we're not talking about day traders. We're talking about the rest of us, right? I'm not a day trader. We're talking about the rest of us. And what we're talking about is what's going on here. So what happens when people buy something and then they sell at the low point? And then then what often happens, this happened all the time with crypto and with other stocks, people buy high, sell low. So they not only sell at the crash, they buy when everyone's really, when it's just gone up really a huge amount, everyone's really excited about it. But really the problem with both of those things is they both come from a lack of emotional regulation. So why? Because I'm not going to tell you that I don't think this is a realistic thing for me to try to assert to you and try to tell you. It's not even something that I'm doing myself, so why would I preach it to you? It's not about don't get emotional about your money. It's not about don't get scared when something you've put a lot of money into crashes. You're going to get scared when something you've put a lot of money into crashes. It's also not about, which is the reason why people tend to buy high, it's also not about getting scared that you're missing out on something. That's why people buy at the high points, right? They get scared that they're missing something, right? And then they sell low because they get scared that they're losing something. So they either get scared that they're missing something, or they get scared that they're losing something, and both of these lead to financially ruinous decisions, right? And like I said, everybody I know, except for one person, besides me, I didn't do this either, me and this one other guy, but everyone else I know got scared when crypto went down and sold a bunch of their crypto. Some sold all of it, some sold some of it, whatever. I did not do that, right? I was not going to sell right when a crash was happening. This made no sense to me, but here's the important thing. I wasn't immune from the emotions of it. I wasn't like, oh, I got it. I know better than everybody else. And all the time when let's say crashes were happening, I would get a little scared, and I would be like, remember, I didn't just put a little bit of play money in there. I put my whole savings into there. I did that partly because I lost 80% of my income. You may think it's even scarier to do because why would you do that when you're down money? But I did that because I didn't know if I was ever going to get back up again because of what COVID was doing. Like, I didn't know if I was ever going to work. I didn't know how that was going to work. So I wanted to take a bet on something else, a different way to get myself to be okay financially, right? So that's why I did that with crypto. That's not the part I'm advocating. What I am saying, though, is you want to be really aware of your emotions. And it's okay to feel things, to feel them deeply. It's okay to get really scared. It's okay to get scared of missing out. It's okay to get scared of losing your money, right? That's okay. The problem is that and this goes back to the core of what I've been trying to communicate to you guys, we do something called emotion rejection. We hate feeling unhappy. We hate feeling scared. We hate feeling sad. We hate feeling guilty. We might hate feeling angry. We especially hate feeling scared, but there's a lot of unhappy emotions we do not like to feel. We can't stand feeling them. And so we try to not feel them. Now, one of the ways we do that is just by stuffing the emotion, not fully acknowledging it. That's not a great idea to do, and it doesn't solve the problem. But what really causes problems is that we try to fix the emotion by doing something that we think is going to take away that feeling we have. So, I'll sell what I just bought, even though everything's crashed, even though I'm selling it at the low point. I'm doing that to cure myself of the fear I'm feeling. Or I buy at the high point because I have a fear of missing out, but I want to cure that fear, so I'm going to cure the fear by buying that. Now, this does not only apply to investing. I want to come back to this. It applies to so many other financial things, right? So listen to this. I'm going to give you a little stat. Americans spend more on lottery tickets than they spend on books. Okay, that might not surprise you, but they do. Americans spend more on lottery tickets than they spend on music. I mean, they spend more on lottery tickets than they spend on sporting events. They spend more than they spend on movies. And they even spend more on lottery tickets than they spend on video games. That's pretty amazing, right, when you think about it? But guess what? They also spend more on lottery tickets than they spend on books, music, sporting events, movies, and video games combined. Yeah, that's right. Combined. Combine all those things. What is spent in the United States on all of those things combined, still less than what we spend on lottery tickets. Now, why am I telling you that? Because a lottery ticket is a really good... Have I ever bought a lot? By the way, again, to be clear, I've bought a lottery ticket. I don't buy them regularly, but I have in my life bought a lottery ticket. When you're doing that, you're betting on something that's well over 1 in a million chance of succeeding. Like any stock you put your money in I think any stock in the world that you could put your money in would have better odds than the lottery. Almost any kind of, lots of, there's like so many, investing in art, investing in so many different things. Even investing in a car, which is not an investment actually, because the car depreciates and goes down in value. Even doing that, still likely, let's say you buy a car and it's only worth half its value a couple of years later. That's still a better deal than you're mostly going to get from a lottery ticket where you buy the lottery ticket and it's worth zero money 2 years later, right? So even losing money, you're losing less than you lose percentage-wise on the lottery. So why is the lottery so attractive to people? Why is it so popular? Why do people spend so much? It's a form, for some people, of emotional regulation, right? So again, it's a way to have an emotion and, at least temporarily, escape that emotion by doing this thing. You buy the ticket, you think of all the things you would buy with the $100 million you could win. That feels kind of good. You don't think about how you can't make your rent next month, right? So there's all different, and not everyone does the same thing when they buy a lottery ticket, but that's one way that people might process a lottery ticket. So it affects how we spend it. We might, if you spend, look, I love going to see the movies. Like, I actually love going out to see a movie. So I do that, and people spend their money for all kinds of reasons. But if you are spending your money to go see a movie, again, because you feel uncomfortable inside yourself and you're trying to get away from it, then that's going to lead you to spending money on the movie for a reason that's involved in your emotional regulation. You're trying to get rid of an unhappy emotion. So this happens in a huge way with investing. It's a huge way. People feel all kinds of things, and they try to get rid of the feelings that they're feeling. And this is a huge life skill. It's also a huge financial skill. And it's really saved me on the crypto front, by the way, which is when at different points when my investments, which was everything I own in life, started crashing, you bet I had an emotional reaction to that. I had an emotional reaction to that. But what I said to myself was, I'm just going to sit with this emotion. I feel scared. I feel worried I'm going to lose my money. But it's not part of my plan to sell when things are low. That just is not a smart idea. It's not why I got into crypto, right? So my thought was, okay, but I am feeling scared. I'm feeling agitated. I need to not try to get rid of that feeling. I need to not be disgusted by the feeling, want it to go away. I need to just feel the feeling. The feeling is just a feeling. It doesn't feel good. I get that. It doesn't feel good, but it's just a sensation. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you. It's just a sensation. And so if we get better at being able to actually feel our feelings, fully feel them, not suppress them, fully feel them, and also not try to push it away and try to, I got to get rid of it, but just feel it, you're going to notice a bunch of things. One is, it's not so bad. Even an uncomfortable, a scared feeling or an angry feeling or a sad feeling, it's not so bad. It's not good. It doesn't feel great, but it's not so bad. It's just a feeling, and it feels uncomfortable. But you've been uncomfortable before, right? Remember, we are made to be able to feel the full spectrum of emotions, right? The idea that we're only supposed to feel one emotion or a few emotions, this is just not borne out by how we are, right? So it's okay to feel the full spectrum of emotions. It's not a sign that something is wrong with you or with the world or anything if you're feeling an unhappy, uncomfortable emotion. It's a sign that you're a human being, and it's a sign that you have a nervous system. Because remember what I've also said about unhappy emotions. Unhappy emotions is your nervous system communicating with you. It's sending you a message. And what's the message? If it's an unhappy emotion, if it's not happy, right? If you're, let's say, angry or scared, it's sending you a message that something's out of whack inside of you, and there's something you need to either do or have or focus on and pay attention to in order to get more into balance, right? So, and you're not yet focusing on that and doing that thing, and so it's trying to help you get back to equilibrium. It's sending you this message. So it's not something terrible is happening, even though of course we feel emotions when something really intense happens to us. I know that, but these emotions have a purpose, and their purpose is not to hurt you. So if the idea is you just can't take feeling this is really common. Listen, I work with people every day with this, both in just people from all walks of life and also parents of autistic children, and a lot of times, and people in relationships. So I work with a lot of married couples and a lot of couples that aren't married but are in relationship together, and a lot of times, not just financially, but just in their life, they do lots of things that they don't want to, that they say they regret doing, that they don't want to do, but they do them anyway. And a big, big, big reason why is because they're trying not to feel some uncomfortable emotion. So they have an autistic child, and the autistic child is screaming and making a noise, and they're just uncomfortable about it. This is very common for parents. And they just want the kid to shut up, just stop making the sound so I can not feel this uncomfortable feeling, right? So they yell at the kid, or they hit the kid, or do different things that are deeply counterproductive and not what we would want to do, right? And then they feel awful about it most of the time when I talk to them. And I'm not trying to have them feel awful about it. I'm trying to help them be in a situation where they don't have to do that in the first place. And one of the ways, a very important way, is to sit with the emotion that you're feeling, even if it's uncomfortable. So if something's happening, if your child is behaving in a way that you're uncomfortable with, if your spouse is doing something that you're upset about, if someone's breaking up with you, if it's not a spouse, but it's just some kind of relationship, and they're breaking up with you, or they're cheating on you. I've had this happen to me. And you have this urge to solve that icky feeling inside by calling them over and over again, or doing something like that, then that means your mission is not to call them. Your mission is not to scream at your child. Your mission is not to yell at your husband or your wife and get them to do it. Your mission is to feel the feeling and sit with it. Feel the feeling and sit with it. This is going to change your life if you do this. And it is going to improve your financial life, because what it will prevent you from doing is making deeply unwise and counterproductive financial decisions because you want to get rid of an unhappy emotion. Right? When you make financial decisions from that place, like people who make other decisions from that place, you end up most of the time regretting it and wishing you had done it differently and not having money to show for it, right? So that's what you want to be aware of. Now, again, does that magically make you make brilliant investing decisions? No, but what it does do is it allows you to make an investment decision, whatever that is, and ride it out till it can succeed. Because again, I just want to highlight this. Of course, every investment is different. Things can turn out all different ways. But most of the time, what's going to happen is if you just can ride it out long enough, it will pay off later. Right? But we are not willing to stick. We are not willing to stick with it. We get scared and we will want to get out. Or we have not only with specific investments, but with investing strategies. We decide I'm going to invest this way. Then we have a bad year in the market. We say, I got to change that way of doing it. Maybe you could. You're allowed to change that if you want. But statistically, your likelihood of doing well is if you just keep doing, even if your strategy is not that good, right? Your chances of doing, and even if your investment choices aren't that brilliant, if you can just stay the course, which you won't be able to do if you're trying to get rid of an emotion, that puts your odds in a much better situation. Your odds are much more in your favor in that situation. Nothing's a guarantee in this life, of course, right? Because something could go to zero, right? There are possibilities. You invest in something and it goes to zero. This did happen to me. So that's why I'm going to tell you a few other stories so you can hear about them. And I want to tell you about something. I'm going to tell you about the investing decision I regret more than anything in the world, more than any other decision. But before I tell you that, I'm going to tell you the ones you would probably think I would regret more than anything, but are not the ones that I regret more than anything. So here's the two that, I would do differently if I could do different, but they are not my biggest investing and financial regret. So first one is that I invested in this startup company. I'm going to tell you what it did too. It's really good. This is before everyone had GPSs, before everyone had their phones, right? Before smartphones were a thing. And they patented the right to have a GPS below the knee. And they were a company that made shoes with GPS trackers in them. People could use them for all different, they could use them for loved ones who have challenges. They could use them for tracking their own mileage, all sorts of different things. And I thought this sounded like a good idea, and I was getting it on the ground floor. So I invested what at the time was my retirement money, and I was younger then, much younger, so I felt like I could play a little more with this, right? I was in my 20s, right? Yeah, I was in my quite late 20s, maybe, yeah, very late 20s, 29 maybe. And so I want to say 20,000, which was in my retirement. I just put that in there. It was in my Roth IRA. And right now, just to give you an idea, I mean, I never did, it is worth, I want to say like $30, something like that. I know it sounds hard to believe. It's hard to make an investment that bad. You have to try to make an investment that bad, to make make $20,000 go to $10,000. Okay, a lot of people make that mistake. To make $20,000 go to like $30, that's hard to do, and I pulled it off. So yeah, I would do that differently if I could, but it's not one. Weirdly enough, it's not a decision that I deeply regret. Right? Yeah, I wish I'd gotten out sooner. I wish I had not invested in the first place. Whatever. That's going to happen sometimes. If you're investing in more than one thing, you're going to make a decision that doesn't work out. Now, so that's one. Second was, now this used to be a regret of mine. It isn't anymore. I feel differently about it now. But I bought a house at the end. My timing is impeccable here. I bought a house at the end of 2005 when I moved from the West Coast to the East Coast. I got a CEO job on the East Coast. I moved from the way I was living in Portland, Oregon, moved to Massachusetts, and I bought a house. I thought that, I don't even know why I bought it to this day. I think I just thought I was supposed to in this part of my life. I was in my early 30s, and I thought this was the thing to do. I bought a house. As we know, the entire real estate market crashed hard, right? Crashed really hard, and I was stuck with a really high mortgage on this house. And it wasn't, by the way, it wasn't like a nice house. It was like a podunk little house. I didn't like splurge on the house. I just bought what I thought I needed to live in. But I still had a high mortgage for a lot of other reasons I don't want to get into at the time. I had great credit and still got a bad mortgage deal because I handled it very poorly at the time. Anyway, I've most of my adult life, I've had a credit rating of about 825, and I had that when I had this house, and I was still paying a high percentage on my mortgage. So this house crashed in value, crashed to like half what I paid for it. So I couldn't get out of it, because you can't just get out when you owe. I mean, I could, but then I'd owe the bank all this money and I have no house, right? So a couple of times I almost lost the house, but I was determined to keep making my mortgage payments, and no matter what. And yeah, there was a lot going on there. It was tough. It was really tough. And I had this house for 12 years, and I did some calculations. So I bought the house for just under $295,000. It was, like I said, it was worth about half of that for a while. And I bought it for $295,000. I was paying over $2,000 a month for mortgage anyway, and I was paying other fees. I had HOA fees that I had to pay. I had a bunch of repair stuff I had to do. So I did a calculation, and I paid, over the course of time that I owned the house, I paid more than the price of the house. So I paid more than $300,000 over the 12 years that I owned the house. Had nothing to show for it because I sold the house at not even what I bought it for. I sold it for what I owed the bank. No, a little bit less than I owed the bank. Sorry, I sold it for a little bit less than I owed the bank, so I still owed a little money after that I had to pay. Yeah, so it was really not great. It was really not great. And so at the end, I had no house. I had no money that I made from the house, like from selling it. And I had all this, $250,000 basically that I had spent. And I wasn't like I was making a ton of money. So this was I was spending most of my income every month on this house. That's where my income was going, to this house. That wasn't even a nice house. Anyway, so that all happened. I finally sold it when it got a little bit close to what I owed the bank. I was like, I want out, right? Anyway, I'm glad I sold it. I don't care that I lost. I would have rather sold it than have hung on to it. I'm sure if I sold it this year, I would have made some money on it, but it wouldn't have been worth all those payments up from 10 years ago, I think 2015 when I sold it, until now. So I'm glad I sold it. But I'm not glad I made the whole decision. I wish I had just never bought the house and just rented, and I would have been thrilled to do that. I love renting. I don't know why I'm renting right now. But so that used to be a big financial regret of mine. That is not my big financial regret. That sounds like a big one, right? It affected 12 years of my life and a lot of years after because of all the money I spent on it, right? Buying a house, right? No, here's my biggest financial regret. And it was because I didn't properly I didn't handle the emotion piece of it the right way. Now, this is the biggest regret, and I didn't lose any money on this one, right? In fact, I made, I don't know, a couple of $1,000s on it, probably. But it's still my biggest financial regret because I would have been a millionaire if I had just changed one thing about this investment. And what it was in the early 2000s, I put all my other, like all my retirement money that was not the money. This was before, this was before, oh my gosh, this was just before I made the investment with my retirement money that I lost, that went from $20,000 to $30,000, just before that. So maybe I started with even $24,000 because here's what I did. I think I invested in Apple in the early 2000s with about 20 grand, and I sold it a few years later when it was like 24 grand. Maybe it went from 21 to 24. I made a few grand, 2 or 3 grand on it, right? I was happy at the time. But if I had kept that stock, it would be worth over $1 million. If I just kept, done nothing, not sold, not like tried to time the market, not tried to figure out and not been smarter, just left it the heck alone and not done anything. But what happened was when it went up a little, it went from 40 to 44 or something like that. 42 to 44, that's what it was worth at the time. By the way, it's split multiple times since then. So if you're doing the calculation in your head and you're thinking, oh, it's worth 40 and now it's worth all this much, you're still doing the calculation wrong. You can't go from 40 to its current value because you have to count that 40 as like 10 because it's split a couple of times. Anyway, point is I could have just left the money there and been a millionaire right now, right? In fact, not even right now. I would have been a millionaire when COVID hit, right? So anyway, but I didn't do that. So, and part of why I didn't do that was I started getting afraid about it. I started getting afraid about the money and that Apple was going to go down because they had done this, introduced a new shuffle. Remember when this is back when they were doing iPods? There was no iPhone yet. Right? If I just waited till the iPhone came out, my whole world would be different. But I didn't. I sold all this right before the iPhone, a few years before the iPhone came out. So I made a couple of $1,000s, but it would have been life-changing money if I had done it differently. You don't want to make decisions to try to not feel something. That's just the moral of that story. It's the moral of any story that's going to get you into trouble here. So you want to really think about this. This is why the answer here is not that you have to be better. You don't have to be a better person in any way. You don't have to be more mentally tough. You don't have to be less unhappy, right? You don't have to be a smarter investor. You just have to be willing to feel your feelings. That's it. You just have to be willing to feel your feelings. If you can do that, it gives you a giant edge over everyone else. And this is what happened with crypto. Everybody sold during the crashes, and I didn't. Right? Now, I'm not saying I'm the only person that didn't again, but like in my circle, I didn't. And so the crashes all bounced back. Like the crashes are all gone now. Like if I sold tomorrow, which I'm debating actually, but if I sold tomorrow, that's fine. Like maybe it's better if I hold on to it a little longer. You can debate that. That's just an investment decision and based on a prediction. But what we can say for sure is that if I sell now, it's way, way better than having sold during any of the crashes, right? Of course, because the idea is to buy low and sell high, not to buy high and sell low. But you can't buy low and sell high if you are unwilling to feel your feelings. Can't do it. You won't do it. And this is the whole point. It doesn't matter how smart you are or what you know or what your strategy is if you cannot do it because of your emotional issues, right? And again, when I say emotional issues, I don't mean to say you should be happier, you shouldn't be scared, you shouldn't ever get upset about this. I'm not talking, when I say emotional issues, I mean feel whatever you're feeling. Don't try to get rid of it. Don't try to suppress it. Don't try to avoid it. Don't try to reject it. That's what I mean by emotional issues. If you just solve that, you give yourself an enormous edge. Again, it's not magic. You can still invest in something that doesn't go up very much, right? Or goes down, or you can do all that, but you will be able to make much wiser decisions during the whole up and down process if you're not a slave to your emotions, or to your desire to not have the emotions, actually. I shouldn't say you're a slave to your emotions. It's not being a slave to your emotions. It's being a slave to your desire to not have an emotion. Your desire to get your emotion to change by doing something different out here. And by the way, this applies to a lot. So this applies to buying lottery tickets when you could put that money somewhere else that has a much greater chance of success. But you're doing the lottery ticket if you're doing it for this reason. I'm not saying everybody is. If you're doing it to soothe your emotional situation, then you're not going to make the smartest decisions. You're not going to make the wisest decisions, right? You're going to make counterproductive decisions financially. And not just when you invest, but when you make any financial decision. If you're making it to try to manage your emotions, it's not going to take you, first of all, it's not going to really be successful anyway at managing your emotions, and it will hurt you financially. So that is what I want to say about that. Let me look at what you guys, I'm so glad you guys are commenting. Monia, yes, really good to see you. Ada Fisher, awesome to see you. David Simon, my man, good to have you here, my brother. Anna, awesome, how you doing? Hey, Shanna. Reba McIntyre? No, not Reba McIntyre. Reba Joanna, how you doing? And Beata, of course. It's not a Facebook Live without Beata. Hi from Poland. The older, the wiser. I think that a lot of us made financial mistakes. In Poland, we say it's better to learn from other people's mistakes. Yes, I've heard that. It's better to learn from other people's mistakes. But here's my bigger point, Beata. You can't learn from other people's mistakes if you haven't mastered the emotional piece of it. This is my whole point. You can have the best idea. You could have even made a mistake in the past and learned from your own mistake. You can do that too. But you can't learn. When people say learn from their mistakes, they don't mean I remember the mistake or I remember someone else's mistake. They don't mean that, even though that's technically what it means to, quote, learn from the mistake. But no, what they mean is learning the mistake from a mistake means you do it differently the next time. That's the whole point. And you cannot do it differently the next time if you're trying to get rid of your unhappy emotions, because you're going to do whatever it takes, what you think will banish that emotion. So it doesn't matter what you've learned from, it doesn't matter what you've heard, it doesn't matter what you've experienced, you're still going to be falling back into the hole again and over again, because you're still you're unwilling to sit with your own unhappiness and discomfort. So that's the part. It's really, really important, you guys. I know it's, David Simon saying totally agree. Awesome, David. Awesome. Yeah. So that's the key. I mean, this applies to, like I said, it applies to your investing. It applies to if you're starting a business. It applies to how you're spending your money just in general, in ways that are not investments and are not supposed to be. Right? You want to think about that. If you are buying a nice car, you're spending a huge amount of money on a nice car, and it's a lot of your money. Now listen, if you're a billionaire and you buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you're not spending a lot of money on the car. Jeff Bezos, as you know, just spent $50 million on his wedding, right? That seems astronomical, right? But you understand that's like me spending $500 on my wedding, or $1,000 or something on there, because has $150 billion. So $50 million is nothing, right? It's not nothing. I mean, it's not nothing. Like for me, spending $500 or $1,000 is not nothing either. So it's like I feel it, but it's not going to change my life, right? So that's this 50. So I'm not critiquing. So it's all a percentage game, right? So spending 50 million when you have 150 billion, right? I don't even know if people really get how much 150 billion is. It's essentially like having infinite money. So the reason I'm highlighting that is if you're a different kind of person, though, and you're spending half of your money on a wedding or on a really nice car, on a Lamborghini, on a Ferrari, or on whatever, on a Rolls Royce, it's okay to do that. You get to spend your money according to your values, but you got to really look at where's the spending coming from. If you have a very specific reason why you want that car, or you really into the driving experience or something like that, then do it, even if it costs a lot of your money, and if that's what's important to you. But what a lot of people do is they make those kind of purchases because, again, they're trying to feel something or not feel something. And what I mean by that is they want the feeling they're going to get when other people see them in the Ferrari, and they see them, whether it's their friends seeing them in the Lamborghini or whether it's strangers. They want that feeling, and they think that it's the car and the people looking at them that way that's going to give them that feeling, right? Again, if they could just sit with if they were okay with their feelings and they weren't trying to always manipulate them that way, then they might make different decisions about what car to buy. They might, right? Again, it depends what their individual values are, and I'm not here to tell you. I'm talking about the emotional piece. So that's separate from your financial values and what you value. For instance, it may be really important to you to have a big house with your family, or it may not be that important to you to have a large house. That's separate. That's your own decision to make. I would never tell you you should not spend money on a big house, or you should spend money on a big house. That's not my place. But what's important is, follow your own values, but just remember to check in. Why am I making this? And I just want to make sure I'm not making the decision. If I want a big house, because I have lots of reasons why I want that, fair enough. If I want it because I feel like then I won't have to deal with this bad feeling I have about myself, feeling that I'm not good enough or feeling that I'm not admired enough, I wouldn't advocate buying the house from that place, right? So you have to think about that for yourself. What else? So I'm just looking at any other comments you got here. So think about this. If you practice this sitting with your unhappy and uncomfortable emotions, and it will put you in an incredible position as you move forward into your life and make new financial decisions going forward. It will enable you to actually make the decisions you know are best without you thwarting yourself as you're trying to do that, because you just want to get rid of a feeling, right? So think about that. Okay, well, this was the second of 5 July Money Month Facebook Lives. Remember, we're going to have Facebook Live next 3 more Wednesdays, and each one is going to be on a different aspect of your financial life and how you can really make some important shifts that are going to put you in just a better trajectory for the rest of your life. So this is what today's was about. We have a different one. If you want to know more about what those are, you can just scroll a little bit back on my Facebook page, and you'll see I posted, let's see how long ago, 2 weeks ago I posted what the schedule is for the month, what all the titles are for the month of my, and I also always let you know the Monday before and the Tuesday before. So I'll let you know again next week about it. I also put a link up there. We have 2 courses that are coming up in the fall. They're both the same course, so you wouldn't want to take both of them. They're exactly the same course. They're just at different times and different months, so to fit your schedule. But here's the thing. These courses are not about money, but you might find them very helpful in your financial life because they're all about emotional regulation. They're all about emotional, being able to actually feel good, but also being able to deal with feelings of distress, discomfort. The name is called Mastering Your Own Neurocrashes. And then the subtitle is We Can't Be Strong When We Use Our Brains Wrong. Right? And it's a 6-week course. Each week there's a 1 2-hour class. And each of those 2-hour classes focuses on one of the causes of emotional distress, emotional dysregulation, and neurocrashes. And by the way, neurocrash is just when the circumstances and the environment and things in your life overwhelm your brain and your nervous system to the point where you can no longer regulate yourself for that period of time, for the moment. That's called a neurocrash. And everybody has them, but they're quite solvable if we understand them and notice the different things we do that dysregulate ourselves, and learn how to do it the opposite way, so that we are regulated instead of dysregulated. That helps with our relationships, with our with our romantic relationships, but also with our other kinds of relationships, friendships, child-parent relationships. Absolutely helps with that. It helps with our just emotional well-being. It helps enormously with our decision-making capacity, our financial decision-making, but also other kinds of decision-making. It helps with our communication as well. It helps with a whole host of different. So it's a very practical kind of course. It's not just conceptual. We give you very specific things you can do and put into practice that will help you with this. So that's, if you want to know more about it, just click on the link. It doesn't obligate you to do anything. You just do it on the link. You could, if you want to register at the link, you can. But if you want to just read what's written there, feel free to go ahead and do that. And Ada is saying, it's an excellent course, so worth taking. Oh, thanks, Ada. Yes, Ada's done it. Ada knows of what she speaks. So yes, thank you, Ada. I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And David saying, enjoyed tonight's live, Ron. Oh, thank you. He's saying tonight and not today because he is in the UK where it is nighttime right now. So, but David, I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. I'm really glad. I enjoyed it too. It was a subject I've been really looking forward to talking about with you guys about. Bucha, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thank you, Ron. Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. Listen, our mental state and our emotional state has lots of practical effects on our lives, on our, like I said, on our relationships and all different things, but also on our finances. And that's why I'm doing 5 in a row on different areas in which how you can shift how you are mentally and emotionally as a way to directly, in a very practical way, impact your own financial well-being and have the kind of financial present and especially future that you really want in your life. Okay, so that at least you're not the one sabotaging your own financial dreams, right? You don't want to be the one doing that, right? Crazy things can happen in the world that it's going to be outside your control, but you don't want to be the one doing it, right? So then, oh, by the way, as I'm speaking to you right now, Bitcoin has just hit an all-time high, meaning the highest it's ever been, right? And that's where my nest egg is, but it's only there because I didn't say I must get rid of this fear, and I must get rid of this fear by selling when everyone's freaking out and the value is low, right? So that just happened as we were speaking. Literally, I just got a bulletin on my phone. Just hit an all-time high. So again, I'm not telling you to do crypto. I'm really not. I'm truly not. I really don't think it's for everyone, for real. But that's the kind of thing you set yourself up for when you're not desperately trying not to feel an uncomfortable emotion. Rosalie, is it pitched for our autistic adults to attend? You are talking about the fall course, right? The fall courses. Well, that's a good question. It depends, Rosalie, on, I mean, there's no rule that autistic adults can't come. Of course, your autistic son or daughter would be welcome. But think about it before, because it's not an autism-based course. It's not focused on autism. I'm talking about the fall courses that I left that link for. It's not focused on autism, and it's pitched at a pretty high level. You know, people are going to be talking about their own emotional experiences, journeys, things going on for them. And so if you feel like your adult son or daughter, Rosalie, could understand that, follow that, isn't going to feel like it's, going too fast for them or dealing with things in a way that they're uncomfortable with. We have definitely had autistic people take it before, but it's not for autism. It's not focused on autism. But if you feel like your son or daughter wants tools to help themselves with their own emotional regulation, they would certainly be welcome. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, thanks for the thumbs up, Rosalie. I appreciate that. All right. Hey, guys, listen. I'm going to let you crazy kids go. And I really, really appreciate you guys being a part of this. I appreciate so many of you guys showing up. Please come next week. Please share this, because I'm going to, you know how I always do. I'm going to record and post it. So please share it so other people can get this. And also, please share the like the future one, like please share that it's coming up 3 o'clock next week and the week after and the week after. Right? I would love for you guys to come. We're just talking about such important and practical subjects. It's all about money. Every single one's going to be about money. That's why I've dubbed July Money Month. And then we're going to hit a different angle on it each time. Okay? And like I said, if you want to know the specifics, just scroll a little bit back on my page and look at the post I made when I listed all 5 of them and what the dates are and everything like that. Okay? All right. Take care, everybody. I hope it was okay that I shared some of those personal stories financially. Like I said, I've never shared those publicly before, but I just hope that they might be in service to helping you. So yeah, I'm wishing you well. I'm really cheering you on. I really am cheering you on. I'm wishing you well. I'm wishing you, everything that you want for yourself, including whatever kind of financial success that you're rooting for and going for and trying to make happen for yourself. All right, take care, everybody.